Hello and welcome to Brodual. This time we have Master of Disguise. This is a mod that transforms all faction armor into forms of identification. So if you're wearing a set from a particular faction, you'll be identified and treated as a member of that faction, for better or worse. This is a feature we've seen in a lot of other mods, especially in the bigger overhauls. However, the system is usually quite basic and lacks any real depth. With those systems you can be perfectly disguised as a member of the Thalmor even if you're a Khajiit. For some people that'll be fine, but if you're looking for a more detailed system, then Master of Disguise might be for you. First and foremost, instead of a simple on-off system that focuses on armor alone, the mod uses a detailed point system. So on top of your armor it takes your race, behaviour and skills into account and then calculates your identity. NPCs have also been given a smarter detection system, so they won't just blindly accept anyone wearing their armor as one of their own. But I'll get into that in a minute. The core of the system uses your skill level and either illusion or sneak depending on which one is higher. Your skill level acts as a cap for your identity score, so the higher your skill level the more potential you have for being disguised. Each piece of faction armor gives a certain amount of disguise points, so obviously the more of the set you have equipped the higher your score. It also varies depending on the faction, so for example the guard faction sets come with more pieces than say a necromancer set, so it's easier to disguise yourself as a guard. Which is great because both reward you for collecting more pieces of armor, and it also just makes sense. If you're wearing more pieces of armor, then it obviously hides more of your character underneath. On top of that, the mod also standardizes certain factions who didn't have clear enemies, or those that didn't behave exactly as you'd expect them to. For example, if you're wearing Daedric armor or weapons around the Silver Hand, they'll be sure to become hostile. It also adds some special equipment conditions for certain factions. For example, to disguise yourself as the Silver Hand, you absolutely need their signature ring. The same goes for cultist masks, the Vigilance amulet and more. The mod also considers your race and then gives a bonus or penalty depending on the faction. So if you're anything other than an elf and you're trying to blend in with the Thalmor, you'll receive a penalty. But if you're a Nord trying to blend in as a Stormcloak, you'll receive a bonus. So basically just use your knowledge of the factions and work around them. And finally the mod also takes your mobility and then applies another bonus or penalty. If you're running, sprinting or sneaking while your weapon is drawn, then you'll most likely receive a big penalty. But if you run, sprint or sneak without your weapon, you'll receive a small bonus. All of this works together with the new NPC detection system I mentioned earlier. For the purpose of detecting threats, faction NPCs now come with a new cone of vision. There's a whole bunch of maths involved, taking your identity score and where you are in the NPC's cone of vision, and then it works out how likely you are to be detected. But unless you're interested in the specifics, the only thing you need to keep in mind is that the system is quite realistic. If you're standing right in front of an NPC while staring at them, they're much more likely to become suspicious than if you're just walking past them from further away. What makes the system interesting is that when an NPC becomes suspicious, you'll receive a message saying you're being watched. You'll then have to work out who's watching you and get out of their cone of vision before they become hostile, or take them out before they set off the alarm. Or if you have faith in your ability in your disguise, you can simply bluff the NPC's suspicion and hope they ignore you and continue with what they were doing. Until the very late game you're going to want to be careful when you are wearing a disguise. In fact, the only way to be perfectly disguised is to have level 100 sneak or illusion, the full faction set equipped, be the perfect race and to behave normally. So overall the system is now much more detailed, and it's not just as simple as equipping a full set. At first glance of the mod page it can seem a little confusing, but ultimately it's just one of those mods where putting yourself in your character's shoes will usually give you all of the answers. So obviously members of a faction will become suspicious of new and odd looking members, and obviously a red guard won't easily blend in with members of the Thalmor. If you keep that in mind, we think there's a lot of fun to be had with the mod. So if you want to give it a go, you can find everything you need down below, and as always be sure to leave an endorsement on any mod you enjoy, and thanks for watching.